Hello, leader. Welcome back to our summer series all about team development. What do you think about this? There's a belief out there that remote teams require less leadership because everyone is independent and working on their own. What do you think about that? And what about this one? Is leading a remote team the same as leading a mobile team? We're going to answer those questions right now because you're going to meet a client who leads a fully mobile therapy practice with a team of 30. And I think you're going to have a much clearer idea about how leading this type of team is very different from leading a remote team or a traditional brick and mortar team. Let's go. Welcome to the Stacking Your Team podcast, smart leadership for women who mean business. If your business has grown and your team has grown, but it still feels like too much depends on you, this is your podcast. I'm your host, Shelli Warren. Each week, you'll get practical leadership strategies to help you build leaders, create more accountability across your whole team, and stop being the default decision maker in your business. Because your business should be able to grow without requiring more of you. So let's get to it with this reminder. The team that got you here may not be the team that will get you there. Let's go. Ellen Nightingale is the co-owner of Early Learning Partners, Inc. in Ventura County, California, a fully mobile practice providing OT and SLP therapies in-home. Along with her business partner, Rachel Price, she has grown the team from 4 to 30 people, dedicated to supporting children up to 3 years of age. She brings over 15 years of experience as a pediatric speech-language pathologist specializing in early intervention. She received her BA, MA, and became Handin certified, which revolutionized her therapy in her parent coaching model. She began her career in the hospital setting as a clinical supervisor for a robust team of SLPs and as an evaluation team supervisor, but now works from home, leading the practice while building a life in California with her husband and their blended family. She loves to surf and write, which is one of her key roles, to expand her leadership skills and structure the business in such a way that it provides more freedom for her to do both. Come on, let's chat with Ellen. Welcome to the Stacking Your Team podcast, Ellen.
Thank you, Shelli. It's great to be here.
I'm always thrilled to have a client come and join me on a podcast episode. And I've been really looking forward to having you here because I think you have a really cool business model. So that's what we're going to dive into today. The whole idea about the different type of business model that you have, and then how are you thinking about growing it and leading it. So the first thing that I have for you, and I would love for you to be able to tell our listeners is, because you've been in business for 8 years now, like how large is your team now? And how has that changed over the years?
Well, I have a partner who's an occupational therapist. So it's both of our teams. When I'm saying this number, I think we are approaching 30 therapists who are on our teams, our collective teams. And on my current team right now, there are 14 therapists. Yes, 14 team members.
Yeah, your business is set up with, you have an occupational therapy, I would call that a profit center. And then we have the speech profit center. So that's how you have the business set up that way, which I love because it's, you can double down on what you're offering to these families for sure. So that is a good size team. 30 people. That is a really good size team. Where are you finding these people?
It's been interesting because as you asked where we were when we started 8 years ago, too, there were 4 of us. It was me, my partner, a very part-time early interventionist, and a very part-time speech-language pathology assistant. Gradually, I think as other professionals in the field who knew us, knew our work, started to come over and then started to refer other therapists that they knew to join our team as they began working for Early Learning Partners. I think many of them felt seen as therapists and human beings, and that whatever they were passionate about learning, especially with the 0 to 3 population, felt that mentorship and support. So some of our team members have been with us since the very beginning. Some continue to come to us, as I say, a lot of word of mouth through the therapists who are currently on our team and part of our team.
Which is always delightful, because normally you wouldn't refer a coworker to come and work with you again at an employer if people take that seriously, right? Because they're putting their reputation out in front of their employer to say, hey, I think this person would be a good fit. Now, this person's success kind of hinges on this referral too, right? So you're not referring people that you truly don't think would do well or that wouldn't fit into the culture. You're not going to bring along problem people to your current place of employment. You're just not going to do it. So that's a beautiful pipeline for you. Now, these individuals, were they coming from a hospital? Were they coming from a big clinic? Like, were they coming from a school? Like, where were they coming from? Because what you're doing is different.
Some of our therapists are in the school district. Many who have actually come to us recently have been thinking, what else is there outside of the school district? Where else might there be a little bit more flexibility so that I could set a schedule around times that work for what else they have going on in their lives as well? And we've actually also seen just a lot of therapists, and I've personally gone through this myself too, who have gone through different bouts of burnout and are looking for a different model that might allow for more work-life balance and what that entails. So we have had some therapists who've come from the school district. We've had some therapists who've been in similar practices and are looking for something a little bit different, that they're looking for more of a team culture. And we've also had some therapists now. We recently had in our county through Ventura College, which is and being part of their advisory board, where we have a new speech language pathology assistant program. So a lot of therapists who are coming through who are going to need field work placement to have great supervision and mentorship. And those that have been with us and have done the field work and placement oftentimes are also the first candidates that we might be looking for too in hiring and offering positions.
I love that pipeline. That is a beautiful pipeline. And the fact that they get to do a placement with you and really experience what's it like to be a mobile therapist. And then if they like it, then they've already, got some great work experience with you. So I love that pipeline for sure. So what has surprised you the most about leading people who you don't physically see every day?
I think one of the things is being that we're on our own so much and with families, of still wanting to find that place of connection, and how everybody is such a self-learner on their own and in the work that they're doing, but also hungry for that time when we can all get together and learn and collaborate and see what other team members are doing. We've had some programs that we offer to parents virtually. We offer different Hanen programs called It Takes Two to Talk and More Than Words. And those have been real opportunities for speech pathologists to collaborate together, for our team members to observe and to feel connected as part of those online training programs, and to really gain some insight and tools that they can also use with families as they're observing the classes. And also we've had groups, social communication groups over the years too, where therapists can come together and really work and see how that change is both not just for the families and the children that we're working with, but how that interaction piece has been such a needed piece when we're also out doing the work individually too.
So how do you have people scheduled? Are they scheduled across your region based strictly on their like where they physically live, and so you set them up with families within a certain radius? Or are there other team members who will be far-flung? Like, how do you organize all that?
Well, I'm always balancing the needs of the business as well as where a therapist would ideally like to be, because I know if that a therapist is working where they want to be, that's going to make for a very happy therapist and easier for them. I know where all of the therapists on my team live, and ideally what locations they're looking to serve, what times they're looking to serve, their availability. And then there have also been times where I've shared with a therapist, are you willing to drive here? Does this, to make a day of it here? Because I know for myself too, being out on the road, just thinking of when I can schedule in chunks of where I'm going to be and to be as effective as possible, I'm open to traveling when it makes sense.
So are they bumping into each other, seeing each other like at a group session that they might be running together? Or are they strictly seeing each other in person, like rubbing elbows with each other as you're hosting like in-person team meetings?
That's a great question. So occasionally they may be co-treating within a family or seeing a child together. I know some of the therapists on my team have both had children that they're working with and have said, let's bring these two families would work really well together to bring them to a park together so that families, that's one of the favorite things that I really enjoyed when we were holding our groups. These families were becoming each other's support network too, and becoming each other's, first birthday participants that they go to as well. So you have to be a little creative when you have a mobile team. I feel like I would love to be able to see my team even more than I do. And I know that's one of the things that I've been looking at with a growing mobile team, how to continue to feel as connected as it may be when it was smaller, and how to have people feel connected even when they are going on their own. We have supervisors working with their supervisees. So there's that relationship, but then also among the other supervisors to have a relationship to go with things that might be more with supervisors, or for our speech language pathology assistants to know that the other members on the team and the early interventionists to know the speech therapist, so that there's a lot of collaboration in a job that can feel pretty solo at times.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what kind of drum beats do you have set up right now that facilitate those moments where people can come together? Especially as a leader who needs to communicate with their team, it's a lot easier to share something once, rather than sharing it 15, 20 times in individual one-to-ones. So what are you doing now to conduct your one-to-ones or be able to host like regular team meetings where people can collaborate with each other, including you?
We do have a monthly team meeting that we started scheduling last year, where I collaborate with one of the members on our team to see the agenda or topics that are important to them. And then also I might have some topics that we'll be going over. So we've actually met at different places around Ventura County, at different venues over the last 5 months. As we're going into this summer, I'm also looking to see how it's just a consistent time, because I know the time trying to work it out with different schedules when you do have some therapists who are part-time has been that shift of just knowing predictability and knowing what things are on a drum beat makes it that much easier to put into everyone's schedules and to be part of it. So we have had team dinners, team lunches, thinking about one-to-ones and putting those on a drum beat now too, of when my team is going to be able to connect with me, and having meetings with our leadership team that are happening more regularly, putting those on a drum beat.
Yeah, people appreciate that. Like, they want to know, when's the next time I'm going to have a chance to speak with Ellen?
Yeah.
When's the next time I'm going to have a chance to see my supervisor? When's the next time I get to hang out with Hillary again, because her and I seem to get along really well. We have similar clients and I want to pick her brain about this or that. Like, people really appreciate having these things planned in advance. So it doesn't feel like it's thrown together at the 11th hour, that they really can lock those dates in to their schedules. If they need to get their own childcare situated, they can do that as well. Plus, for a lot of them, they're looking forward to it because they're in their vehicle doing in-home sessions all day, every day. The chance to be able to connect in a public place with other people that are doing similar work, to be able to have these similar kind of adult conversations where they get to see their leadership team. You may be rolling out something new that's interesting to them. You may be sparking some sort of collaborative conversation. They don't want to miss these opportunities for sure. So the more we can get those put on a drumbeat and get them locked into people's calendars, the more that mobile team will feel cared for. So what do you think you've gained because the business has a mobile team? Like, as opposed to thinking, like some people may be thinking, well, it must be so much more difficult than having a brick and mortar, or what are they losing because they don't have a brick and mortar? I want to flip this on its head. What are you gaining by having a fully mobile team?
I think you have a team where the work works for everybody. You have a team where the therapy that they're doing with families, because we work with children who are 0 to 3, and being able to go into a family's home and see how the family operates is really insightful. I think you probably have more family buy-in as our families feel like they're partners with us. They're not just coming to a clinic where they're expecting the therapist to do the work, where they're coaching the families, which is a really big part of our model. And so from a place of being in the natural environment and being able to look at community-based care, that's a really, that was one of the important pieces when we were first starting our business, to think, are we going to be brick and mortar, where then families would be coming to us, but it's not really part of the model that we think of with naturalistic therapy approach in home. And so doing in-home therapy looks really different. And often when therapists are curious about what that would be or what that would look like as part of our process, I often would invite a therapist to come and shadow me and observe and see what a session looks like. And so they can feel like therapy on the living room floor with a 2-year-old and parent is going to look a little bit different than it does in a clinic, and what that does for them.
There's a belief that remote teams require less leadership because everyone is so independent and they're working on their own. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a big question, because I think as therapists, the therapists who are serving on the team too are such self-learners that they are independent and they do know the piece of the clinical piece that they are working on. But then also, I've been building that muscle in my own leadership skills of how we can have systems in place that support everybody. So to know what the expectations are, to know how to in terms of many of the questions that we might have that come up frequently, and how to support our team in that too. So it's a balance where, yes, people are out there working independently and doing their own clinical work, but also knowing that you're part of a bigger structure with a bigger mission, and how each of those pieces is important to the overall work and what we're doing with the families that we serve.
I think it also must have something to do with the selection process, like who you're hiring though, because let's face it, there are people that need a lot of hand-holding.
Yeah.
They may be a high level of mastery in what they're doing, but they require a lot of hand-holding in terms of meeting our expectations, being compliant, submitting their timesheets on time, following up on their notes, like all of the basic expectations. There are people who are very self-sufficient, very professional, very mature, and they can handle those things. They can do those things without requiring a lot of oversight. Like, we trained them once and they got it. But then there's other people who they just do need a lot of oversight. So I think the particular team that you have, it says a lot about who you're hiring, that they want this. They want that level of self-sufficiency. They're mature enough to understand that, hey, there's a business we're running here too, right? Like they can't just focus in on doing the in-home sessions. They've got to do the other work that comes along with having a thriving practice. So I think sometimes people, they get caught up in thinking, oh, if I have a remote team, like no one's going to be bothering me all day. I'm not going to bump into somebody in the kitchenette. I'm not going to have someone waiting for me in the parking lot as I come in, wanting to bend my ear about this or that, right? So there's a little bit of reprise from all of that. And I think business owners get caught up in thinking, oh, that would be awesome. Like I wouldn't have to deal with all that stuff. But on the same sense, a remote team, I believe, like my personal belief is that they deserve more of their leader because they are so self-sufficient, because they're a complete extension of the brand, not within your leased brick and mortar property, but out and about in your community, in these people's homes. So I think the level of leadership and onboarding and training and check-ins, it's actually more with a remote team.
Absolutely. And I think as part of our onboarding process of really having our therapists come on and be with other therapists as they're gaining familiarity, as they're gaining their own confidence, and just knowing the practices of knowing who to go to for what piece. It's as your team grows, that is one of the places where I really had to look and see what kinds of things can I make easier for our team as a whole, to know how different processes work.
Yeah, we don't want people feeling so much that they're on an island, that there's no support. And at the same time, you don't want team members that are going to go rogue on you.
No.
Either, and ruin your reputation. So I think remote teams, they do require an extra level of oversight because you want to make sure that they feel seen and heard, because you're not bumping up into them at the team room table every morning. You're not the last two out for the night before you turn the lights out, where you get to have a quick conversation with someone on the way out the door. It's a totally different dynamic. So I always think that's interesting when people say to me, oh, I think I'd like to have a remote team. I think they'd be so easy. I'm always the first one to say, actually, there's a lot more involved in that for sure. So what would be one thing that a remote practice owner needs to stop doing if they want their remote team to do well? Like, is there a habit that you think sometimes business owners kind of cross the line with, or, just some bad practices that are actually inhibiting that remote team from being successful?
I think there has to be a level of competence and knowing that your team can find those answers too, of them not feeling micromanaged when they're doing it, but feeling really encouraged and supported, and to know that there are other avenues other than the owner to go to when they need guidance. I am often thinking about who else cross trains in the team so that they have onboarding new therapists, that they have exposure to a lot of different styles and a lot of different therapists, to see who are the other go-to people. I've also thought, and it took me a little bit of building my own leadership team and what that looks like too, to also have ideas that come into place so that not all the decisions are coming to
you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because sometimes the business owner can convince themselves that, like, the buck stops here with me. It's a way for me to check to make sure that they are being a great extension of my brand. If they come to me with every question, if I force them to come to me with every question, or if I lock down all the resources, so they have to come and ask me for the resource and then I send them the resource. No, we want self-sufficient teams. It's especially frustrating for people that are remote or who are in their vehicle moving about every day. When they need a resource, they want to be able to pull up their device and quickly go and get it and have access to it, not have to like send a message to their boss and ask them the question. And then the boss, whenever they answer it, decide, yes, I'll unlock that document for you, or here, let me shoot that over to you. It's just so unproductive. So I think that's a bad habit that some business owners who have remote teams can kind of fall into, is feeling that everything has to flow into them and then they'll approve and get aligned on, and then it'll go back out to the remote team. And that's just a slog. It just slows everything down for sure. So we know that they need to stop building that habit. So what would be one thing that remote practice owner needs to start doing immediately? Like the minute she opens up her practice and she's going to have a remote team, whether it's mobile or whether it's virtual and everyone's just remote, what is one thing that they need to start doing immediately to make sure that those teams are successful?
I'm only sharing this because these are the things I wish I had done immediately. These are not the things that I did, but I think getting everything out of your head early on so that there are SOPs in place, and thinking about every question that someone comes to you with. And I started doing this as newer therapists would come to me with questions, of keeping that question log, because that in essence was something that we just needed to have as a training resource, of knowing something as simple as how to expense something, and having those procedures could be helpful for others who are going through a similar procedure. So I feel like it's been a constant evolution, but with the growth of the team, there's going to be the growth of those types of questions. And if you can just get into the habit of figuring out right now those systems, that's going to make for a much, much easier growth transition.
Yeah, like start now. Why wait? Like, why? Well, when I have a team of 6, I'll start doing that. Oh, when I have a team of 10, I'll start introducing those policies and those guidelines. No, you want to do that now because you want to build that team, build the agility into that team right from the get-go, regardless of the size of it. So if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about you as a leader leading a remote team, like what would that be? Or is there something that you feel you really have waved a magic wand and you really have evolved into a different version of yourself?
That's a good question. I'm thinking about that question, because one of the things I think that makes for a really good therapist who's working in early intervention is being very flexible, being very adaptable. And that is something that as a business owner, you also have to be too, as you're leading a team of therapists. But then I think there's also that piece of knowing how much adaptability, how much flexibility is too much, and how much where we can be flexible and where other things might need to be a little bit more boundaried for the needs of the business. For example, I've shared with you, Shelli, in the past that when I was bringing new team members on board, I was so excited to just have a team member that in this field, you could work as little or as much as you wanted. And so I do have many part-time therapists as well on my team, probably a mix of some part-time and full-time, which has worked really well. But there might be a place where it's too part-time that might not make sense, and really thinking about what the needs are as we grow.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you got a business to run. This isn't a hobby. This isn't a club for therapists who want to come and have a lot of fun. Yeah, you've got a business to run. So that, I think that's a fine line that a lot of business owners walk on every day. It's that whole idea of wanting to hear what their team members are asking for. And also realizing that you can't say yes to every request of every team member. You've got to put the business first. We've got to have the doors open, or we've got to have the vehicles running. We've got to have the client served. We can't just have, everybody happy except the clients. You've got to think about the business moving forward. So I always think that is definitely a fine line that you walk on as a leader. It's trying to have team members who are happy and also having a business that's happy and thriving. So you've been in the leadership lab now for 6 months. What do you think is the biggest change in yourself that you've recognized now? Like, was there a habit that you had initially or a thought that you had initially? And you think, I can't believe I used to think that way. I can't believe I used to do those things. Is there one thing where you're proud of yourself for being able to work through and solve?
I was just thinking about this as reflecting and thinking that there was so much, and there's still quite a bit, but there was so much that I was holding up here in my brain and feeling probably all the things that you share as part of the podcast, feeling like I was the bottleneck in my business. So many decisions were coming through me. And before starting the Leadership Lab, I almost knew I couldn't keep going at this pace and holding this much, and knowing that there just needed to be more in place to take myself out of the business, bringing in a few team members who are part of that leadership team, and starting to think about what their roles would be so that decisions aren't all on me is massive. And even thinking of more and more how I've gotten moved from, I'm still in therapy to some degree, as I'd be jumping in if therapist was sick, but what the role of me as a leader for our business really means, and to be able to carve what leadership time looks like in the business. Even planning in 8 years, our first CEO day, of being able to have some intentionality and starting to think about what we want for the business and what that looks like. So often we're just so in the day-to-day. So to be able to remove ourselves for planning is the point, is the purpose of our role now.
Yeah, that is the work. That is the work of being a leader. It's the strategic planning. It's the thoughtfulness. It's mapping out ideas. It's looking at schedules. It's looking at profit and loss. It's looking at team members and who's thriving, who's not. It's looking at succession planning. It's thinking about planning for maternity leaves, planning for retirements. I mean, that is the work as a leader. And so many business owners are trying to tuck those activities into what I like to call the fringe hours, which is like early in the morning before anyone else gets up out of bed, or, climb up into her bed at night with her laptop while everyone else is sound asleep, or waking up at 3:00 in the morning with this so much anxiety about all the things that need your attention, but you just haven't been able to carve out the time to do it. That is so heartbreaking to watch so many business owners think, well, this is just what it's supposed to, I guess this is it. Like, I made my bed, now I'm lying here. Like this, I said I wanted to own my own business, so I guess this is what it takes. But it doesn't have to be that hard. It really doesn't. And so I remember that first conversation we had, Ellen, and you literally said, I cannot keep doing this anymore.
Yeah, I was at that place of anxiety and holding so much and thinking, I built this beautiful thing. I built this business, and this business is running me versus me running the business. And so what changes? And so if we go even from a place of there's no anxiety right now, as I'm looking and thinking about my business, there's still a lot to do. It's not to say that there's not a lot to do, but the feeling of going about it throughout my day is like a 10-pound weight off my chest. And so for that, I think that's really the intricate work of leadership that has been done the last few months.
That's the payoff. That is the payoff. It's how you feel about where you're adding value to the business and where your attention needs to be. And knowing that you don't have to do it alone, that you've got competent people around you. Let's put them in a leadership role. Let's set them up for success in that role. And then let's just start moving backwards and allowing those people to move forward, and recognizing that things might not be done exactly the way you would do it, but as long as they're following the SOPs and our processes and workflows and compliance is being met, then it's all good. It is all good, and it doesn't have to be you. Well, I appreciate you coming on the onto the Second Team podcast today. Ellen, I love how open you are with just sharing exactly what's happening in the business. And I think people always appreciate hearing from a business owner about what she's experiencing because, I just hate to see people going alone out there. You really do need the support around you. So, and it was fun to be able to meet you in person because you came up to Canada for a retreat last month. And so I love being able to see people in person. It always adds a whole level of connectivity or just, feeling connected to someone. You get to see someone in person. So, and that was a big trip for you. I mean, that's a bit of a haul coming in from California into Canada for sure. So I appreciate you.
Thank you, Shelli. I appreciate you and how you pampered us. And it was actually I think that piece of being able to come up and take that time as a business owner and to be able to be in the company of other women business owners who have taken that time out of their business to really be intentional. It was eye-opening and it was exactly where I needed to be and at that right time. So I really thank you for that too.
Yeah. And then you kickstarted having a CEO day with your partner, Rachel.
The day after. Yeah.
Right. As soon as you got back to California, you had that planned in advance. You're going to ride that vibe and maintain that momentum. And it worked out really well for you. So tell our listeners, how can people stay connected to you and learn more about what you're up to?
Our website is earlylearningpartnersinc.com. And you can also follow us on Instagram, Early Learning Partners Inc. as well.
All right. Well, I will have those links in the show notes. And it's always great to spend time with you, Ellen. I appreciate you coming and sharing your story with us.
Thank you, Shelli.
I've had many clients over the years who are therapists of all kinds, really. But Ellen is the second client I've coached who has a fully mobile team. Now, you may have always thought that leading a mobile team is the same thing as leading a remote team, but I hope you now know there is a difference. So having a business built with a non-traditional brick and mortar team doesn't eliminate leadership challenges, it simply changes them. Because you may not be walking down the hallway and bumping into people in offices or gathering everyone around a team meeting table regularly, but your team still needs clarity. They still need accountability. They still need communication. And perhaps more than ever, they need intentional leadership, which is exactly why Ellen said to me when we stopped recording, and I quote, "Don't wait 8 years to have your first CEO day. Do it now." You see, she realized how valuable it is to pull away from everything to create intentional space for strategic planning and making decisions, rather than believing leadership is simply about having the stamina to respond to every little thing that happens every single day, which only leads to burnout, something she also knows really well. I encourage you to connect with Ellen. We've included all of her socials in the show notes. And if you've made it through to the end of this episode, bravo! That tells me you're primed to expand your leadership skills. Did you know that I'm offering a limited number of spots this summer for live and virtual team trainings? I've got some popular 60-minute workshops that you can choose from, and I'll dive into these topics with your team to leverage your summer slowdown and elevate the performance of your entire team. Head on over to stackingyourteam.com/summer and grab your spot.
This is Ellie. Come back next Tuesday. My Mimi will have another episode for you.